Thank you for joining us here today. I'm looking forward to talking more about the fifth dimension. And so maybe we could start off by just telling us a little bit about this book that we're going to be discussing today. Maybe a description of the subject matter and kind of what was the inspiration for it.
I think I should start to explain something about my legacy of communism.
Okay.
First of it is my English, so sorry for my English. I hope it will work well, but during communism we had no chance to speak and no motivation to learn then. But second legacy, what is more important, was my studies of mathematics and physics, what I hated. I wanted to be writer since my 6 years. I started to write stories before I would able to write really script. But I couldn't study human studies as philosophy or literature, because we were very were not friendly with communist government, and in natural science the pressure of government wasn't so strong. And my father was famous mathematician, and he wanted me to be a mathematician, to do it after him. I didn't like it, but I studied it. Why I tell it before? Because many years, maybe 20 years, I found the time when I studied it as a really wasted time. But after 20 years, in my brain, born story of the fifth dimension. And I wouldn't write it without knowledge of astrophysics. So after 20 years I saw that everything bad can be good. So even legacy of communism. So the book me inspired for this story. One book which I will say later,
Right.
but the book about astrophysics, and of course story should be about characters and about the plot, so not only ideas are inside the book. Maybe the book is psychological thriller, it's about the crime too, because the main character is a Czech businessman whom firm bankrupt. And he took place in some very strange experiment to stay 10 months somewhere in isolated landscape. He didn't receive more information, to stay there 10 months without connection with with relatives, with somebody, to be absolutely alone. So when I found this place in Argentinian mountains with Czech traveler and adventurer Jaroslav Pavlíček, who took me in Antarctica too. We did this travel, and we explored the place in deserted mountains in Argentina, maybe altitude 4,000 meters.
Okay.
And my hero should I stayed there 12 days, but my hero 10 months.
Just a little bit.
Yes.
You just need a taste.
But it was a very important experience for me to see the desert, to see this. It's colorless, but after 10 days you see many colors there.
Okay.
So I saw all the colors of this desert, and all feelings with which men can have there, and of course you can see stars there. It's so clear and dry area that you see maybe 1,000 times more stars.
Wow.
There. So it depends with my issue astrophysics.
Yes.
And one day some crime maybe happened there. This man see it in his brain as a dream that some Czech tourist killed some girl. It was ritual murder
Mm-hmm.
in some sacred mountain of Indians, and then this story starts. If it's true, he creates some new, his own, but in fact my own theory about life and about existence, about astrophysics. The source of this idea was I think very simple, but I have never read somewhere. If I could read this idea, it's easy. That our thinking itself shows signs of another dimension. That thinking is not derivable from mere matter, from mere space-time, from mere neural connections and chemical reactions in our brain. That our thinking is not of material nature and shows signs of rebellion against four-dimensional space-time. At the same time, it realizes itself through the physical body, we acquired through evolution and with which it is inextricably linked. That is why it shows those signs only in an incomplete and somewhat distorted manner. So which signs do I have in mind? For example, our persistent effort to move in time, back when we remember or when we explore the past, but also forward when we think about the future or try to directly predict it, or when, in the case of physical laws, we try to calculate it. Our mind does this despite the fact that matter alone can never be anywhere else but at a given point in space-time. Further, our persistent effort to move freely in space, which is what a physicist and in particular does when he formulates laws that should apply to the universe as a whole. A physicist speculates about connections that lie far behind the horizon of a material object. He even speculates about other dimensions, although to the matter of his brain they are completely out of bounds. He speculates about what it looks like in a black hole, although the matter of his brain cannot get any information from inside the black hole's interior. The physicist's thinking defies four-dimensional space-time in every possible way. And our imagination also defies it. We often think about things which we cannot make happen in this universe of ours with its laws. How do such things enter our minds if they are the result of mere material processes?
Oh, thank you. I wanted to ask a few questions about your creative process, and so you've talked a little bit about your research and what you did to kind of be able to write the book, but how did writing challenge you? How did writing this book challenge you?
I think just this book was really challenging for me, this issue,
Mm-hmm.
because I used my studies, that was very important, and second, I really tried to answer basic question which I would like to know answer. It's questions about the sense of life.
Okay.
And I believe that I did it. I am
Yes.
I personally am still.
It's definitely
satisfied.
about that. Yes, there's some really interesting. It is a novel for people who like novels and people who like philosophy and people who are interested in physics. I think so. There's something for a lot of people in here.
I hope it's assumed them, not
Yes. Yes.
because only me.
Yes.
Maybe we would like all these.
It's a very engaging and challenging combination, but very interesting as well. So how did this process to write this novel differ from your other novels and other writings?
That was second time I did some research
Okay.
at all. First, it was my journey to Balkan when I wrote the book Traveling with Benjamin, what is father and son,
Okay.
traveling in Balkan countries, and finally they lost there, and this was second time, but this was more wasn't so easy as to go to Balkan. First of all was my studies of the book Black Hole, written by Kip Thorne.
Right.
What is book very interesting but not easy. I think I wouldn't understand everything without my studies, and that's the benefit which I received from my studies. And the second was extreme journey in mountains, because my friend is really adventurous. It's not easy to travel with him because he don't take many food, and he has only very light bag. And I remember one situation because in the desert there is very frozen during the night, but very hot during the day. So we started to go early morning without breakfast, and at 11 I was very hungry, and I hoped to take some dinner. And we took tent. Now in this word, we needed tent because sun was extremely strong.
Right.
And we lied there inside, and my friend taught me, and we don't need dinner. But I asked him to give me a small piece of salami.
That's pretty extreme.
Yes, that is. But very important, because my hero, of course, has some troubles there sometime. What is important that he never know what really is experiment, what they only play for him,
Right.
and what is reality. So there is other dimension of this story that he never know.
Right.
And you can see here product of my writing, my manuscript, which nobody can read, only me. It's my secret. This is important during the
Right.
process.
Yes, of course.
Nobody can read. And second, very important thing for me, that I am able to put here maybe 3 pages on one. So I see more from the plot, from the story,
Right.
and I can make changes everywhere. And I write only on this paper with this lines, because it creates topology of my novel in my mind. I am really inside this topology
space. Wow.
when I am writing.
Interesting. How has your writing changed over time, do you think?
It changed after the fifth dimension, because before I wrote long time, and it was hard work for me, and after it I enjoy it. I write it with pleasure, and after fifth dimension, which I finished in 9.
Okay.
I wrote maybe 1,500 pages in 6 novels, and with pleasure. I wrote 3 novels for children, young adult maybe.
Right.
One very big novel, 700 pages, for teenagers, but for everybody. And now I published the novel My Brother Messiah, which is maybe 250 pages. And it after the fifth dimension, I write easily and with pleasure. I hope the same quality.
Well, that's always the question.
Because I don't write because some order from publishing
Right.
house. I really write as my destiny. I only write issue which I want, which is exploring for me,
Okay.
and it should be adventure first of all for me. I have to be interested
Right.
in.
Right. what role does reading play in your writing?
Not a great deal, I think, because I of course I read novels in my younghood, classic literature, but now I can't read novels from other authors. It disturb me in my style, and I don't see sense to do it. Sometimes I read some chapters only
Okay.
to know style. But more important for me is to read philosophy, book about astrophysics and
Okay.
history. So I can't say that I have some strong pattern in literature. I hope it's my own way I go.
So you avoid overly influenced by kind of avoiding other novelists instead of having to worry about being influenced. You just kind of don't.
I am really living in my story,
Okay.
1 year, 2 years. So there is time only in a gap between this process, which is in average 3-4 months. I can take to the holidays one
Right.
book, maybe some crime, to really to relax.
Sounds like a good plan. Very good plan. Well, to conclude, I thought I would ask if you could recommend 3 books to our series and seminary co-op audience.
Yes, I think I can. First of all, Kip Thorne's book Black Hole and Time Warps.
We even have them here. We can
Yes,
show our
it's very nice to
audience.
see the book in original language.
Yes.
Really important book for me. But I think what is interesting that this book isn't only about physics, only about science. It's about story of science too.
Right.
So you see these ideas surrounded by political system in Russia, for example, in Soviet Union, and you see why some ideas really were born in some places,
Right.
in India, in Russia, in America, of course. So it's not easy writing, but I would recommend for everybody.
Okay.
You can read it as a Bible or your life.
Right.
So second, I was born in Prague as a Jew. I have Jewish mother, and of course Franz Kafka, my neighbor, is important. Was
Yes.
very important for me. But Metamorphosis, it's for me the best novel about inner feelings.
Yeah.
How to feel man if he is different. It's about difference from other society, I think, and how society they accept you,
Mhm.
and how are your inner feelings. I think Kafka in his life probably felt it, and that's why Metamorphosis is so special. Nothing similar you can read in literature, I
No.
think.
It is one of a kind.
Yes,
Very,
yes.
very much.
And of course, as a Jew, I am interested about evil, because you have to ask how is it possible, such
Right.
things as Holocaust and Gulag. And I think that the Archipelago Gulag, written by Alexander Solzhenitsyn, is really the best book about the evil, because it's so big. You can see it's heavy. It's more than 1,000 pages. Which can looks like non-fiction book,
Mhm.
but in fact, when you read more and more, it creates a really artistic message. Then it's art, because it's so big.
Right.
Not because of system, but because he is able really to explain everything, your inner feeling about the torture, about the evil, the best book about the evil, and I think we should read, because evil in world does exist still.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you and I look forward to talking about all of this with you more. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.